Okay,
I got the notice that we're live streaming.
I think it's working. Take this as a positive development. Okay. Well, good evening. Welcome to the Maryland Go Team meeting. Apologies to you all in advance that it's been a little bit clunky this time. We're going to try to get all those bumps smoothed out going forward. I think in advance of this meeting, you were sent a couple of things: the agenda, the meetings from the last minute, and some materials that we're going to review and discuss today. But I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Maryland Go Team to order at 6:33 p.m. So our first order of business is to call roll, and Paul will take that on.
Okay. Sharon Briscoe.
Present.
Christy Perez.
Present.
Allison Thompson.
Present.
Ashley Hanshaw.
Present.
Monica Waldman. It's not here. Yep. Missy Snyder.
Here. Present.
Elizabeth Broderick.
Present.
And Kelsey Boyajian. So we've got 2 people absent, but we've got enough for a quorum.
Great. Thank you. So our first order of business is to approve the agenda, which was emailed to you. And let me see if I can pull it up so that everybody can. Give me just a second. I'm going to try to do a share screen. Take a look. Okay. Can you all see the meeting agenda?
Yes.
Okay. 1 second, move this over here. Okay. Does anybody have any proposed changes to this agenda?
No.
All right. All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So
Motion
moved.
to approve. Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye or raise your hand so that Paul can record.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Motion passes. So we will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting as the second order of business. Those also were provided in advance. I'm not going to pull them up unless somebody tells me that they need me to do that because they were provided in advance. So does anybody have any corrections or amendments to the meeting minutes from our August meeting?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from our August 22nd, 2023 meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second motion to approve.
All right. All in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye or raise your hand. I think that's everybody. Am I right, Paul?
Yes, that's what it looks
Yeah.
like to me.
Okay. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Thank you all. So our next action item is to, I guess, confirm the filling of our open community member seat. As you all will have seen in the meetings minutes from the August meeting, there had been a nomination to have Scott Thorpe fill that seat. It is my understanding that Ms. Briscoe reached out to Mr. Thorpe, spoke with him about it, that he is interested and would like to fill that seat, and that she is nominating him for that position. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think at this point, it is the job of the Go team to vote whether or not to confirm that nomination. So I guess first, does anybody have any discussion about the nomination of Scott Thorpe to fill the community member seat? Okay.
I would just say, hey, you take it personally and be a good addition to the team. Take it seriously, I'm just saying, sorry.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, can I call for a motion to approve Scott Thorpe to fill the open community member seat?
Do we need to have a motion or just vote?
Maybe we just vote.
You need the motion.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the motion is to accept the nomination of Scott Thorpe, and then there's a second, and then there's a vote. Hi, everyone. Just if you don't know me, I'm Diane Jacoby. I'm the school governance liaison, and I'm just here to help.
Thank you. All right. So I guess to reiterate, can I call for
Motion.
a motion?
Yeah,
To-
motion to approve this Scott's nomination.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. All right, I think that was actually everybody, so we have none opposed and the motion passes. Thank you all. We have one more action item, and if you'll bear with me just a second, I'm going to pull up the proposal that I sent to you all in advance regarding our meeting dates. At our August meeting, we approved all of the meeting dates for the remainder of this school year, but there are two that I wanted to raise again. So the first would be our next meeting, which is currently set to occur on Tuesday, October 24th. I have been called out of town that evening, and so wanted to float the idea of moving that meeting to Monday, the day before, on October the 23rd. In the alternative, if that looks like it's going to be too complicated, then Elizabeth, as our vice chair, will chair that particular meeting in my stead. The second date that I wanted us to sort of discuss and consider moving is the Tuesday, March 12th meeting date. Looking back at the calendar, that day appears to be an asynchronous learning day as a result of some election activity. And so I think we want to avoid having the meeting on that day. And it also conflicts with a preset meeting of the Maryland Education Foundation board. So again, I'm proposing on that day also that instead of that Tuesday, we move that particular meeting to the Monday of that same week. So I'll call for a motion to approve an amendment to those two meeting dates. And once we have the motion and the second, we can discuss.
Motion to approve the revisions to the calendar.
Second.
Okay. Does anybody have anything you want to discuss with respect to these dates, proposals about different dates, or comments as to whether moving to these two Mondays will or will not work?
I don't have any schedule conflicts with those changes.
Yeah, it's fine by me as well.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay. Well, then I guess we'll put it to a vote. So all in favor of amending these two meeting dates, please say aye or raise your hand. I think that was everyone. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thanks to you all. I really appreciate the accommodation on the meeting next month in particular, given some of the difficulties we've had. I didn't really want to voice that onto Elizabeth. Although certainly we'll have those bumps smoothed out by then. So that moves us into the public comment period. I don't believe we have any members of the public. So given that, I think we can move straight into our discussion items, which I'm going to pull this up.
Hey, everybody, I'm just wanted to let you know my computer keeps flashing to a black screen. Like right now, I see black. Now I see you.
Oh,
And
no.
I don't know why it's doing that. But there's going to be some times when I can't see. Like right now, it's black again, and I can't. I'm assuming that you can hear me. I can still hear you. I
We
just
can hear
can't
you.
see. I don't know if it's my. I don't think it's my internet. I think it's the actual computer itself. So bear with me when I'm supposed to be talking about something like okay, it's like it's on and off.
Okay. So we are at the point where we're in the discussion about the strategic plan and the data. So I'll do my best to try to, sort of orally roadmap where we are. So
Miss
I don't
Briscoe,
know.
you can come over to my house if you want to.
Yeah.
Trust me, you don't want me over there. I have a cold.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So I guess just to dive in, and we'll manage this the best we can given those challenges.
I'm going to open this up on my phone and see maybe if I can follow along with the slides on it.
Okay. So this is sort of the meat of the purpose of this particular Go Team meeting, where we're going to be going through and reviewing the school's strategic plan and the priorities that were approved and set last school year. This presentation was sent a little in advance. And in addition to this presentation that we're going to review, I also sent a copy of the APS strategic plan so that anybody who was interested could cross-reference to the extent that they wanted to do that. So again, this says, where we are. We're essentially reviewing the information in the presentation tonight so that in the subsequent 1 or 2 meetings, we can determine whether any adjustments are needed, and ultimately we'll approve, goals and priorities for this school year, and we'll rank priorities similar to what we did last year for those of us who were on the team last year. But this meeting is really just informational to review what's in the presentation. We are here. Okay. So, Ms. Briscoe, I don't know if you are able to look at the presentation on your phone, but the first set of slides relate to the current strategic plan, which is in place through, I believe, 2025.
You're muted, Miss Briscoe. Still can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay, I had to wait till the screen popped back up so I could flash the mute off. I can see it on my phone, so I'm gonna just go. So Allison we just copied and pasted the strategic plan from last year, and we also looked at the current continuous improvement plan, which I just had to submit. And so what we're doing, our priorities are still the same. We are increasing the number of students who are proficient in ELA by 1%. It might seem like a small amount, but number one, we lost students. And so, every percentage point changes significantly with the number of students that change. And we're also already at 89%. And so, obviously our goal is always going to be to get everybody 100% proficient. We're just trying to make small increments. And so that is our ELA goal, and our math goal. We're currently at 76% proficiency. And so our goal is to increase that by 2%. If you look at our continuous improvement plan, it's a little bit more detailed than that, because we talk about specifically what is going to happen in ELA and math, and those are based on particular domains. So in ELA, it's writing is our focus, and then in math, it's geometry. That's our focus, because that's where we're scoring the lowest, which is kind of a surprise to us. And then we also are trying to close the achievement gap between our subgroups. Our subgroups also have shrunk due to the population change. So you have to have 10 students in a per grade level to constitute a subgroup on that grade level. And so we may not have that by grade level, but we will overall at 3rd through 5th grade in terms of Black students, students with disabilities, Hispanic students, and we won't have it for economically disadvantaged. So I see that you moved on to the CIP.
I was just kind of clicking through as you were talking about it.
Yeah, that's fine. So so this is really like, you know, just to share with the Go team what our action plan is. And so we have to you can't just say like, oh, we're going to increase our writing scores. We have to show how we're going to do that, who are the people who are going to be responsible for making that happen, and how we're going to be monitoring that. And then also which of the APS 5 goals does it relate to. And so this is just for your eyes to see. It's, you know, we don't change the CIP here. It's something that's done with our associate superintendents and the people in the teaching and learning department. So that's where we are, and I'll take any questions that you might have about our SMART goals for our continuous improvement plan.
So I'm gonna put up this slide, which was in, you know, the draft presentation for today. And these 3 priorities that you see come from here, where last school year, I don't know why it says 1 every time, but it's 1, 2, it's 1, 2, 3 in descending order on the slide, where last year we had ranked these as the priorities for the school from the strategic plan. And I don't know if this is a question for you, Ms. Briscoe, or Diane, but I gather that at some point over the course of the next 2 meetings, we're going to need to take each of those priorities, to the extent we determine that they remain the priorities and don't change, and map them to a specific SMART goal, and then fill in these key indicators. Is that correct?
Well, from my perspective, you know, these are not competing documents necessarily, but complementary documents. And so our priorities that we talked about last year at the end of the year for our Go team, these have a lot to do with, they're not necessarily measurable in the same way that the actual SMART goals are for the CIP. Like, they want to know like a particular number of what's going to happen. And our priorities, we haven't mapped those to quantitative data. So building teacher capacity, that is definitely still a priority of ours, because we know that if the teachers it's about kind of like putting our money where our mouth is when we use our foundation dollars. Where are we spending our time, our professional learning, and things like that to build teacher capacity? And what that ultimately means is that when we do that, then they are able to have a stronger content knowledge to be able to hit those CIP goals. So I don't know, Diane, maybe you can help us a little bit better, but none of these 3 priorities from our Go team strategic plan really are directly aligned to a CIP SMART goal, except for the third one. And that would be our family engagement goal in the CIP about a collaborative school culture.
So if you think about this from going to the broad idea of the plan, so your strategic plan is a 3 to 5 year plan. And when you set a priority, that is to help Principal Briscoe and her team know this is what we think is most important for this year. The example I like to give a lot is pretend that your strategic plan is like you're building a house, right? So in your strategic plan, you say in 5 years, we want to build a house. And you put all the things in there that the big picture things that you need to build the house: buy the property, lay the foundation, put up walls, put up roof, run plumbing, electrical. Know that in any 1 year, you can't address, and you're not supposed to be able to address everything in your strategic plan, right? It's a 3 to 5 year plan. So what the idea is that if you give a priority for, in year 1 for our house, we want to buy the property and lay the foundation. What the Principal Briscoe and her team are going to do is talk about the devil's in the details. So in the CIP SMART goal, as Principal Briscoe said, they are complementary documents, but you should be able to see some of that priority reflected in those CIP SMART goals, as Principal Briscoe alluded to, in terms of how we're supporting our teachers to make sure that our students have those academic needs and that kind of thing. So
that makes sense to me, both of you. Thank you. And I guess my follow-up in the last piece of it is, if we're looking for key indicators, it seems to me that the way that this slide is moving is sort of big picture toward detailed, right? Like we're going, here's the priority, here is where it maps to the CIP SMART goal, and then here sort of, again, key indicators, bullet points, so to speak, as to, sort of how we're working to achieve the priority. Am I understanding this correctly?
yes, if I'm understanding your question, the key indicator is going to be in your strategic plan. It should be in there. We do have that in the plan part, and also Principal Briscoe has different indicators in her CIP, I think, which is fine because the CIP delves into the nitty-gritty of these plans.
But I guess what I'm hearing is that we do, but at least, by the end of this calendar year, need to make sure that whatever our 3 priorities are for this school year, that they do map to some CIP SMART goal.
It's more the other way around. Like the
Okay.
CIP should come out of the priorities at the end of the year. So
the problem is that the CIP it's very focused on and very data driven, where our priorities for the GO team are more overarching. And so I will get together with Shayla Miller, who is like the support person for continuous improvement plans, and ask how to best merge these, because I like our priorities from our GO team. And I think that's something that, like, from the lens of this governing board, these are things that we think are important to have in our school. It's important to strive for in our school. We want teachers that have, the capacity to meet the needs of our students. We want to cultivate learning through STEAM, which are our signature programming and things like that. I just don't know how to capture that in a number.
Yeah.
So I'll ask Shayla about that and what other schools are doing.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of bridge that gap between these plans. So like I said, they're not competing plans, they're complementary, but they are not, they're not exactly aligned.
All of that makes sense to me. I think I would like to try to make sure that we are figuring out what that linkage is, rather than in an abstract sense, in some sort of,
Yeah,
articulable way. So, we can move through that process over the next 2 meetings. And I agree with you. I mean, I think these priorities remain important focuses of the school and the community. So before we move on to the discussion about data, does anybody have any thoughts or questions sort of about what was in the presentation, about the strategic plan and the CIP goals?
I have a question about that slide where we were talking about, the 1% increase for ELA and the 2% increase for math.
mhm.
Yeah. So when we say that currently it's 89% proficient or 76% proficient, is that data taken from removing the students who were removed from our school? And that's the
No, it's
current
from
set of
last
students?
year's Georgia Milestones scores. And so just so you know, the Georgia Milestones, the way that they score is there's 4 categories. There's does not meet, and then there's beginning, and then there's proficient and distinguished. So the milestones counts beginner, proficient, and distinguished. We're really striving for proficiency. So if we include beginning, nearly all of our students, I mean, we have a couple of outliers, 1 or 2 students who just do not meet the standard, period. But the large majority of our students are proficient. Those numbers are about proficiency and above, proficiency and distinguished. But when we get into the next couple of slides, I'll show you what we're talking about. These are there are MAP and milestone scores, so you'll be able to see what we're talking about.
I guess my one question about it is if that 89% and 76% don't, only include the students that will be included in this next round, what happens if it's not 89% right now and it's currently 86%? Or
So
it's
we're
currently
gonna go
95%. You know what I'm saying? And we're saying
Yeah.
it's a 1%. Like, is our school impacted in some way
Yeah.
if our number drops instead of goes up because it's a different set of students that are being evaluated?
Yeah, so we don't do apples to apples when we're talking about well, we do both. We follow students on a trajectory for where they start, and we start taking that data in 3rd grade so we can see how they did in 3rd grade, how they did in 4th grade, how they did in 5th grade, and we consider that to be a growth score. Okay, so we get points or rated on growth as well as achievement. And with achievement, it's apples to oranges. It's one class. How did 3rd grade do this year? How did 3rd grade do the next year? How does 3rd grade do the next year? Right? So while the milestones only comes once a year. So what we do in preparation for it is we use the MAP scores, right? We take those 3 times a year. So we just took our first round of MAP scores, and we see scores from 2nd through 5th grade. And if you, Allison, if you just pull that up, I can't see what you're seeing, but I'm going to be looking at my phone.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that you're on the slide that shows math. This is just an example. So, okay, so maybe if you zoom in just a little bit, the top bar is how the district is performing right now. So in the district, you can see that there's 29% of the students in the district are proficient in math. That's the green. The 20% and the 9% is distinguished. The 37%, nope. The
This
other,
one?
yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't
Yeah.
seeing the numbers. Matt,
Okay.
but
Yeah. If you look
it's
at
fine. Go ahead.
if you look at the district bar, you'll see right now that there's only 29% of the students who are proficient, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Here.
And that's in the district. Then what they do is they rank these schools, and this is based on the MAP assessments that were just taken like 2 weeks ago. So you can see that it gives us a little bit of baseline data. This is where Mary Lynn is right now. So we're currently at this moment at 76% of our students are proficient and above in math based on what we just took this week or last week, right? But unfortunately, my computer's acting up. What I planned to do was kind of go through, if you look on the left column where it says achievement and sort, window, exam, associate superintendent, cluster, tested grade, etc. I have the ability to drill down into those so that I can tease it out by grade level. So right now, this is just the overarching view, and this is the view that our scores are determined by, but for the action steps, so we have to drill down to each individual grade level. And we can also do it by class. So where we are right now, you know, obviously head and shoulders above most of the schools. And we have very, very few kids who do not meet. We're pushing really hard to get that 21% in the yellow into the green. So if you look at the next slide, the one that has the rainbow colors, that is just the growth quintile. That just shows how much the students grew from winter to spring from last year. We don't have that from this year. So for this year yet. So what that means is that the majority of our students, and these are ranked. So not only do we have a high achievement, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're the 7th highest in the district in growth. Means 30% of our students grew more than, had more than 80 percentile growth. And 17% of our students had low growth. Okay, so that's for math. And then if you keep scrolling up, and I can't tell where you are because I'm black again.
I'm on the MAP growth achievement for
this
reading.
flash for me. So this is our reading, and you can see the similar with the district numbers. We see they're at 35% in proficiency, and for us, we're the 43 and the 36, which gives us 79%. Maybe that says it wrong on our thing. It says 89%, but it's 79. And so just so that you guys know, one of the things that I do when we're talking with my supervisor and you know, planning out our goals, we really focus on distinguished and not so much just proficiency, because I feel like if we shoot for the highest ranking, then we'll pull some of the other kids along. When we have that intervention block that was built in, that is to move students out of the red. We have very few students who qualify for that. So our intervention block is spent mostly in enrichment and small group instruction. And then you can see at the—
Can I ask a question about this?
Uh-huh.
So right in the middle where it says exams and there's the number 363.
Yeah.
Am I correct in assuming that that's the number of students who took the test?
Yes, in 2nd through 5th grade.
Okay, so what we're saying then is 5% of this 363 is what's falling in the red, 16
Correct.
of that number. Okay. Correct.
However, and I was saying like it could be teased out. So like I would venture to guess that like, you know, our 5th graders are extraordinarily achieving. And so we may have 0% in one grade and like 8% in another. So it goes by grade level, but this is just the average.
Okay.
So with our reading, in terms of growth, the MAP quintile for growth, we are a little bit farther behind than in math, as you can see, from winter to spring from last year. we're probably more right in the middle of the pack in terms of growth. One of the things that's important for people to understand about why growth scores count is because, you have a really high achieving school like Maryland. Students come in, they can all pass the test on the first day of school, they're doing great, and we think that we're awesome. But did those kids, did they grow? They are ranked against how they scored on the test, and then they take the same band test score band and rank those against the same kids the next time they take it. So did we outgrow our peers? And that's how they determine the growth. So if you look at a school like you see like Young and Perkerson and West Manor, they're not high achieving schools, but they have high growth. And so that means that, whatever it is that they're doing is working. And we want to make sure that we acknowledge both growth and achievement. So for us, growth is almost more important than achievement to me, because it's about, making sure that we continuously challenge the students, no matter where they come in. So if you look at the next slide, and this is at the milestones, this is an example of, this is our challenge index. Okay, so the black line is a range of, gives you where you should be performing at, or you should be performing at the line, what the expected performance is based upon your challenge index, which is comprised of your socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So you can see that we're outperforming where our expected performance pretty significantly. And you can zoom in and see, so you look at a school like Drew Charter, they're a high performing school, they're doing well, they're doing just as well as they are expected to be performing. And then you might look at a school like Westside, I don't want to call any schools out, and negatively, but you can see they're performing below where they are expected to perform. So I feel really good about this. It just shows that we are outperforming what our expectation is. And then the next slide, yep, okay, I can see that these are actually the milestone results. So the first ones were the MAP scores from this year. The MAP scores are what they consider to be a predictor of how you will score on the milestones. Generally, we have outperformed ourselves on the milestones than we have on the MAP, but it just gives us a guide of how we're growing and how we're performing. So last year, these are our MAP results. And so we're really excited. We have 60% of our students in the distinguished category. And you can see that if you do the 60 plus the 27 is 87 plus 9. That last little bit in the red, those are the students that, according to the state, are the students to watch. We get credit for the yellow, green, and dark green. We personally, our school district is focused on proficiency, as we should be. But just giving you an idea where, this is why we're 9 in the state, because of these yellow, green, and dark green. So that's our math overall. And again, that's all grades. It can be teased out to lower grades. And so if I just say I looked at the 3rd grade scores for this year and I teased them out, and just say that they looked exactly like this. Well, this coming school year, we would take the 4th grade scores, and that would determine our growth score. But in terms of achievement, they would still be compared to 3rd grade.
Can I just ask a quick question? When we're comparing 3rd grade from last year to third grade to 3rd grade, right? So we look at last year's 3rd grade scores and this year's 3rd grade scores. I'm not worried about, Christy had asked the question earlier around, are we accounting for the fact that a significant portion of these students have left? It doesn't really matter because it's really just about how 3rd grade is performing, not how 3rd grade performed last year and then how they transitioned into 4th grade.
Right.
Is that correct?
So yeah, exactly. So that is where, regardless of who the kids are, that's your achievement score is your achievement score.
Yeah.
The growth is going to count. And those kids that are in third grade that now went to another school, those scores will follow them. So they'll generate their growth scores from there, but it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna, it's so funny because sometimes people say like, this group, what's wrong with this group of kids? Or, you know, or like this group of kids was the COVID group, right? And they missed kindergarten and COVID due to COVID. And so, you know, are there as a whole, are their scores gonna look different? And sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, these fifth grade kids, this group is really a bright class. You know, is that true? Sometimes, yes, it is. You will be able to see like, you know, significant differences in certain classes. Just have kids that are, you know, that test well or just, you know, happen to, you know, be super bright students. But we don't rely on that. Our goal is to just kind of improve the academic program. And so the teachers know that last year, 60% of my students were distinguished. And this year, my goal is to have 62% of my kids be distinguished, regardless of who the kids are.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide is our subgroups. And I was sharing that these subgroups are likely going to change because we're not going to have as many students per grade level. So this is everybody, third, fourth, and fifth grade. And so what I don't see on here, usually there's a slide that gives us the black line. It's a black line that shows how the district performs and where we are. So you can see that we do have some gaps in where our African-American students are performing, our Hispanic students are performing. Oh, no, there it is. The district is to the right of it. That's why there's not a black line. So you can see that while we do have gaps, we are still outperforming. Each of our subgroups is significantly outperforming the district. So like the district multiracial students is 58% proficiency, and we're at 100. And the district Black students is at 16%, and we're at 57.9. So we look at where the district is performing. We want to outperform the district, we want to outperform the state, but we still do have some room to close that gap between our predominantly white population, which is at 92% proficiency, and our students of color. Any questions about those slides? All right, and then the next slide shows this is the growth percentile for milestones, and you can see we're in the top third for sure, but in math we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18. We're 18th in growth, and what that means is that this is the amount of students who had low growth, typical growth, or high growth. So it looks like Classical Academy and Beecher really they really did over half of their students had high growth, and that's what we're going for. One of the things, like you can see, like in our CIP, one of the things that we talk about is like giving students goal setting objectives for themselves, so that they can also like be responsible for trying to attain their goal. You know, like the students know, like I know I got this one time, how did I do the next time? And so that's something that like an action step for us. And that making sure that teachers are aware of where students performed and what we can do to grow them during that enrichment time, since we don't really have intervention time. So then if you go to the next one for ELA, you can see we're very similar to how we're performing in math. 50% of our students are distinguished. And we're ranked 1.
Oh,
and then if you go to the subgroups, it's also very similar. We're outperforming the district significantly in all categories, but we still need to close the gap amongst our students of color. And then we're doing a little bit better in ELA in terms of our growth This is again milestones. We're ranked in the top 10, we're number 9 for the growth percentile. And you'll see those numbers get smaller in the growth percentile ranking because they only are measuring 4th and 5th grade students. 3rd grade is baseline data, and that's the reason why. And you can see some of these schools are like really, really small schools, and then you can see schools that are significantly bigger than ours. Any questions about that?
So can you remind me when we last year made those quantitative goals, were they about growth or were they were about proficiency? Now I remember. Did we also
Yeah,
have a goal
so
on growth?
So the district goals are achievement goals, and they're quantitative, and they're about proficiency and above. That's what in our continuous improvement plan, those are the goals, are proficiency goals.
But they are growth, right? Because they are to increase by 1% the number of students who hit those benchmarks.
Yeah, but you're increasing the number of students who have achieved. It's not
regardless
about
of growth, their
right.
personal growth. Right?
Yeah. So we have our own growth goals, and growth counts for the CCRPI, which is like the state measurement. It counts, actually, it's weighted heavier than achievement. But in the district, like the board goals are all proficiency goals.
So, I mean, I think, summarize if I'm understanding correctly, and if I'm not, you can chime in, that as far as the current strategic plan goals for the school, they are focused on pulling a greater number of students up into the proficient category. Separate and apart from that, you and the school, the teachers, everyone there is separately trying to get students to increase their personal growth as well.
Exactly.
But the
Yes.
strategic plan goals are focused on pulling a greater number of students up into the proficient and above categories.
Well said. Yes, that is correct.
Can I ask
Okay.
just an aside question that it's not directly about the data that you're presenting, but more about how the kids interpret this growth? I went to that thing on Saturday for part of the day with the training, and they were talking about the part of some initiatives with the Go teams and the kids having personalized learning was the kids like self-defining goals
Yes.
for learning and for growth and what they want to achieve.
Yes.
Is that something at Mary Lynn that
Yes.
you're bringing into the class?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. So we do, the students should, well, your kids should let you know that they will be conferencing with their teachers about their particular growth goals. So the students will know, like, this is where I achieved the first time, and this is where I want to achieve, or like even like this is my reading level. Like like students, for those of you who have younger kids, they're reading on a particular level. They'll have a goal they want to get. They're reading on an M right now, but they want to get to a P, or So yes, students have, and that is something that we do at Maryland, a separate goal for the students to track their own growth. Because like I said, achievement is one thing, but growth to me, if I have a student and they came in August and they achieved it, a 90, and then at the end of, in the 90th percentile, and then at the end of the year, they also achieved the 90th percentile, but they didn't show any growth. As a parent, I want to know, why didn't my child not, where's the growth? They understand these standards, but did they grow amongst their peers? Nobody wants to have a conversation with parents that shows like your kid is doing great in school, but they didn't grow. And I have some teachers on here that could probably chime in and share a little bit more about that.
I was gonna say I could speak to that. I'm Miss Boyajian. Hey, I know I taught Allison's kiddo back in the day. But yeah, I mean, we conferenced with every single student before they took the MAP test, winter and spring, and we conferred with them as well for the milestones and set goals with them that, you know, I feel like really gave the students a chance to have some autonomy.
I think too, when I was in the homeroom class, one of the things with the younger kids was preparation and their inclination to really blow through the test and rush through it. And so really conferencing with them and having them understand the importance of reading the passages very carefully, taking their time, taking it seriously, not just clicking just to get it done and over with, was something that really seemed to help during those conferences. And also making sure that, you know, we would mention that to the parents as well, just so they could reiterate that the importance of taking your time at home.
Yeah. And it's a balance. I appreciate that, Missy. And it's a balance because we do want them to, you know, have autonomy and take ownership and understand what they're doing. But we also don't want to just be like, this is the test. You have to do well in the test. It's about the test. So we really try to strike a balance between, you know, the love of learning and then also being able to perform well and show what you know.
So
Yeah, I think I was actually asking about their goals not related to the scores, which I'm not sure that they really internalize, you know, as a third grader or something, but more like getting from that M to the P on their reading level, something that they can, you know, like look at week to week. But yeah, I appreciate your comments, and it's really helpful to understand.
Okay, so that's it for data. Unless anybody has any other questions.
So if not, I think we're through the discussion portion of the agenda and can move into the information items. The first of which is titled on the slide Principals Report, but on the agenda Leveling Impacts and Budget. So
okay, yeah, so I can just talk a little bit about leveling. We are under, so we were at first slated for 540. I can't see the numbers. Oh, yeah, there they go. All right, we were first slated at 540, and then we opened up the school to transfers, and so it brought us to and we offered 11 spaces. So with that, we had 11 additional students. So we get, what happens is we're weighted, it's about $4,500 per student, and we're under. And so what normally happens is at leveling time, the district will come and they'll take your money. So if we're 41 students under, that would be 41 times $4,500. The district was very gracious and kind to us this year. I shared with them that we don't have any money. And so if we had to level, we were going to end up losing a teacher. And they said, we're good. We're hold harmless. I think one of the reasons why they did that is because the projections were so off in kindergarten. Our 1 through 5 projections were pretty accurate, but kindergarten we're really under. We're like 30 under.
Do you have any idea why that happened?
I think it's probably because of the rezoning, redistricting. They just didn't have a good grasp on how many kids were going to be here. You know, and it's not, I mean, it's a prediction, you know, sometimes you just have, you know, you could have 4 families that move in, and they all have 3rd graders. All right, I think it's just, it's trying to make predictions about things that are, you can get an idea, but not necessarily completely accurate. But I'm just grateful that they gave us the opportunity to just leave it alone. And so what will happen next year is that will just be projected differently. And so we'll know in the beginning that we have less money to start off with. And that will determine how we choose to spend our dollars.
Which will be discussions for this team in the spring.
Which will be discussions for this team in the spring. That's correct. Like may have to make a determination, certain things like, will we have 1 coach instead of 2? Well, do we need to have, a STEAM lab and a STEAM ambassador and a STEAM project coordinator, those kinds of things. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to close this presentation and bring the agenda back over while I ask Ms. Briscoe and/or Christy to speak on the Midtown Cluster Advisory Team meeting. I think it's my understanding there has been one, maybe more than one.
There was one, and I will shoot that over to Christy.
Yep, we had one meeting, and I was elected the chair for the Midtown Cluster. Let me just pull up my notes really quickly. Terry Harness was elected the co-chair or vice chair, and then Audrey Sofianos was elected the secretary. The other things that we did were discuss the Midtown Cluster priority. And there's 2 of them. One is STEAM implementation. Leaders ensure that all stakeholders have ongoing opportunities to access information and learn about STEAM implementation. And so you probably all know that STEAM is like the selected focus for our cluster. And then the second priority is build cross-cluster engagement opportunities for students, staff, families, and neighborhoods. Examples are the cluster-wide communication to inform all communities about upcoming events, not just school events, like STEAM cluster nights or art cluster night. And so really there was a discussion about how can we have students from all the various grade levels of schools kind of cross-pollinate and be able to see what's going on across the cluster, especially as it is with the community events. And then one thing I wanted to mention about that was that Terry had made a comment that it would be nice if there was more corporate partnerships within the Midtown cluster. It was something that he kind of called out what is like an ask that would be nice for us to look into. I guess some of the other clusters have corporate partnerships, but we don't.
Is that something where you're talking about a corporate partnership, like for all the schools in the cluster? Because I know individual schools, do have some relationships.
Right. Individual schools have relationships, and I don't know what it would look like in real time if the cluster had a corporate sponsor. And I asked if that was something that the Go team could kind of work towards, if that was like in our purview. And Terry indicated that it was something that could be done at the cluster advisory level with the people from the school board to try to bring more sponsorships in. I don't really know the details of how that would carry out.
So a lot of schools do solicit partnerships from companies that are looking to do things like, I mean, and I've had these before, like I would have companies, I was with Deloitte, they would have some of their people come in and read to students or tutor students, or they give money and things like this. Oftentimes, most often, school partnerships are looking for schools that are Title I schools, where it's kind of more of a, like a give back to the community kind of feeling. And because we're not a school that has high needs like that, our sponsorships tend to be like, more financial and just in partnership, kind of like with our PTA. So, there are, again, like some schools will, partner with like Microsoft or something, and they'll donate materials and supplies and things like that. We don't really have a lot of that going on in the Midtown cluster, but it is something that we can talk about. It's just kind of difficult to get people to to partner with us on that level, because we are we are affluent and high performing, and so finding an area of need, it just looks a lot different at our school.
One of
And
the
really
things
probably
at
cluster
the,
wide.
one of the
I'm sorry,
things
what'd you
that
say,
the,
Allison?
Well, I was just kind of thinking out loud and saying, and really probably also cluster wide.
Yeah, cluster wide. We have one Title I school in our cluster, and that school is also, changing rapidly. The Old Fourth Ward is, becoming less and less free and reduced lunch housing.
Mhm.
at that meeting on Saturday, they had superintendents from other districts in Georgia that have Go teams, and they were giving examples of innovations in their school districts. And we're talking about how, like, the hospital system set up an urgent care clinic at the high school, and the students at the high school who were like on the nursing track or the sports medicine track or whatever would get volunteer hours and training at the clinic doing whatever, but the hospital system kind of funded the building startup, getting equipment in there. And I guess there was other innovations that were like work study kind of programs where the business in the area supported the school and supported like the training of the students. And so I think that's another opportunity for partnerships that maybe aren't monetary, but could also be monetary.
And maybe worth just brainstorming and thinking through, particularly with the STEAM certification. I mean, all this for that, there may be ways to try to go out and solicit assistance
Yeah, so
related to that.
Stephanie Schumacher does a really good job of that, like locally, especially like reaching out to our parent base. So we do have people that come in to like donate their time and do presentations and things like that for our school, but it's a lot less monetary.
Mhm.
But we have a really wide base of people that we rely on in terms of our STEAM certification, which is great.
All right.
The last thing I just wanted to touch on was the challenges that were brought up for the cluster, and that there were 3 that were brought up: advanced mathematic opportunities in middle school through high school. I guess there was just a highlight on a need for changes to the curriculum development for that. Clear direction and understanding on all mathematics options. Messaging needs to be K through 12, and that would be towards the parents, messaging to the parents, and then providing opportunities for elementary parents and guardians to learn about middle and high school opportunities. I'm happy to answer any specific questions as well.
So really quickly, if I may, I know that there is going to be a presentation on secondary math. I'm looking for the date, right?
I think it's October 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I think it's next week too. I just have to, yeah, there it is. It is on October 4th at 6 p.m. and it's virtual. It's part of the family learning series. So I will put it, I'll see if I can find the link and I'll put it in the chat.
I think a lot of that discussion is born out of some different changes that were made regarding, like accelerated math versus advanced math, and just giving parents the understanding of what happens, what the trajectory looks like, because some people feel like if their students don't qualify in 6th grade, then they're doomed for the rest of their high school career, and that's not the case. They just want to show the path moving forward, that there's multiple ways to achieve what they're trying to at the end, in preparation for college.
All right, does anybody have anything else on any of those topics before we move into the announcements? Okay. So I'm going to open it up briefly at the end, but do want to sort of tick through the announcements that are on the agenda. So the first being that the Maryland Education Foundation year to year typically has a Go Team representative sit on their board. And I think traditionally that individual has been the chair of the Go Team. In my discussions with them, I can sort of just give a very brief overview about all of that, but I thought it might be nice to sort of alert this team to the fact that this has been ongoing, and rather than just assume that I will do it, and I am more than happy to, just ask if anybody else might be interested. So the Go Team member is a voting member of the Education Foundation board, so must attend all of their meetings. Along with other Education Foundation board members, you'll essentially review and consider grant proposals that are submitted, and then you would come back to the Go Team and provide any update, that should kind of flow backwards from what's going on at the Education Foundation level. All of the MLEF meetings are scheduled. They take place from 7 to 8 p.m. via Teams, not in person. And the next one is on October the 17th. I have all the other dates too for anybody who is interested. I will say that sort of regardless of whether I serve in this capacity, which again, I'm more than happy to do, or somebody else, on October 17th, I cannot go to that meeting. So if somebody could go to that meeting, maybe Elizabeth, that would be helpful.
I would be happy to step in. and just checking my calendar. So it's the 17th?
October 17th is the next one.
I have a conflict that night. I'm sorry. Otherwise, I would be happy to do it.
Well, let me start by just asking, is anybody here from the Go Team interested in serving as the Education Foundation board representative in my stead? And if not, I will assume that I will be going to these meetings. Okay.
I'm happy to let you do it, Allison. Thank you for stepping up.
Just figured I would open it up just in case somebody was really gunning to be able to do it. Is there anybody who could go to the next one on October 17th, since both myself and Elizabeth have conflicts?
I might be able to do it.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and commit to it, and if I can't, I'll let you know.
Okay. And we can touch base, as it gets closer if there's any issue. So the next update I have was just to sort of tick through a couple of things from Patrick McGrath at the PTA. I'm going to move this over here and just read. He wanted me to announce just sort of a general update about what the PTA is doing and how they're doing. They have finished their 2 main fundraising drives, raising one $38,000 in cash and over $5,000 in kind donations from school business partners, and 2 almost $40,000 in donations through the Boosterthon. He says that the PTA exceeded their goals for both drives and wanted to thank parents, family, and at-large businesses for their generosity. The PTA plans to use the funds to support a number of educational and community building initiatives, including an update to the school auditorium, providing a much needed facelift to that room. And for the second year in a row, they are focusing on hosting a number of community building events for the school. A lot of them you will see here on the agenda, and I'm not going to tick through every one, but the ones coming up in the next, say, month to month and a half are listed here on our agenda. And then he wanted me to remind everyone, as always, to sign up for the Rocket Blast to receive weekly communications on all Maryland events. So with that, does anybody else have any other announcements? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. So we are now in the second of our 2 public comment periods, and I believe we have had a member of the public join us. So give me just a second to read the public comment format that we approved at our last meeting, which is that at meetings when public comment is allowed, the public may make their statements, ask questions, or express concerns during the public comment period. Excuse me. After the original agenda items have been discussed and acted on, public community members who choose to attend the meeting should share their statements in a timely and concise manner. Please see meeting notices posted on the school website and throughout the school for meetings that allow for public comment and for more details on the posted meeting. We have set aside 10 minutes for public comment. It is now 7:44, so I'm going to open the floor for public comment. Anyone?
I'm about to say, it looks like we just have one member, Waikisha. If you had any comment or question.
I don't have any comment. I'm usually just at you guys' meeting. I hope you guys had a great start to this year.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I guess if we have no further comment, we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? All right, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
That was Christy.
Second?
Thank you, Allison.
All right, well, I think we do have to vote. Raise your hand to adjourn. Okay, that's unanimous. Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned at 7:45 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Karen, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
That start of the year crud, huh?